Okay, so how can new phyla evolve after there were already several trilobite species? The first life form was a species. It had very little variation. It had the same domain, the same phylum, the same class, etc. So, for example, it had no spines, so it's not chordata. It has no exoskeleton, so it's not of the phyla Arthropoda. So because of the lack of variation, you can't divide up this into different domains and phylas. Then life split into 3 domains: Archaea, bacteria and Eukarya. There were still species within Eukarya, but they had no phylum because they hadn't yet evolved a phylum. There were not enough variation to different phylums. Now later the kingdom Animalia evolved. At this point there were still species within Animalia, but they had the same phylum, they had the same class, because there were not enough variety in animals to separate them into different phylums at this point. Now, at some point, some animals evolved exoskeleton, making them arthropods, of which is a phylum. And later, that also evolved into classes like trilobites and insects, who then later evolved even more. But what is common for all of them is that they have an exoskeleton. Now, this original animal could still coexist with the arthropods. It may not have become extinct just because another further evolution occurred. And from this point, a new phyla could still evolve, since this animal yet hadn't evolved a phyla, or a phylum, but still coexisted with the arthropods. So for example, later on some animals evolved spines, making them chordata, which later evolved into reptiles and mammals, which are classes. But the important thing to remember is that arthropods, the phylum, could have coexisted with the original animals, so to speak, which were still a species, but that still hadn't evolved a phylum like an exoskeleton or a spine. I hope this explained things to you. This is Lucian Macandrew with super simplified explanations.